Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wally Rada. I'm coming to you live from the city of Singapore, also known as Malayan City. The time in Singapore is just gone 58.5 minutes after 4 o'clock. We are due to start today's BizTalk at 5 o'clock, but I still have people coming into the room. So we will actually start at 5 minutes past 5 o'clock, which is about 6 minutes away. I welcome you all to this BizTalk and look forward to seeing you all. It's so good to see you again. For most of you, hello Marie, nice to see you. Hello Shinajin. Hello Wang. It's nice to see you again, Estella. Great to see you, Claude. Adalberto, nice to see you, sir. Hi, John Ford. Um, okay, we are getting people coming in at a rapid rate. So let me just wait for everyone to join and we'll make a start at 5 minutes past 5 o'clock today. Let me welcome my co-host and administrator today, Ms. Adina. Welcome to BizTalk. Thank you. Hi, Marites. Hello, Pema. Hello, Havindran. Hello, Annie. Hi, Annie. Hello, Bikram. It's so good to see you again, Bikram. Looking as young as ever. Good on you, mate. Hello, Maricel. Hi, Karan. Wow, some of these faces I haven't seen for a week. Wonderful. Cosmos, you need to switch on your camera, Cosmos. Hello, April. Hi, everyone. Just while we're loading and waiting for people to join us, can I just remind you all that part of the attendance requirement for BizTalk in order for you to get a certificate of attendance, which you can use on your CV and resume as additional training attended, is that you attend the session from beginning to end and that your camera is switched on throughout the session. Your video camera must remain switched on throughout the duration of this session. And you must attend the session till after I say thank you and goodbye. Otherwise, you will not qualify for a certificate of attendance. The idea of giving you a certificate is when I'm comfortable you've learned, not for you to actually register, go and do your own thing, and then switch off your Zoom and say I've attended. That's not the way it works. So if you want the certificate, I must see you on video for the full duration of the session, and you must show your correct name on the screen. That will be my final warning to all students. Your video camera must be on, and I must see your face. I don't want to see Lani Castro, the wall or the door. You must be sitting in front of your camera. If I can't see you, there will be no certificate issued. Thank you. Okay, guys, we'll give it 2 minutes and we'll make a start. Again, welcome to BizTalk. Hello, Yagapa. How are you today, Yagapa? Nice to see you, Mr. Yagapa. Hello, Catherine. Nice to see you again. All right. Let me start by talking about why we're covering business analytics. Many of you have reached out to me saying, well, we've looked at many subjects, but in business today, it's really important to collect numbers. Business analytics play a vital role in providing you the information you need to run your business. You all understand what I mean by numbers, data, information to run your business. Many companies collect information about you. In actual fact, the first time you go to Amazon, the first time you go to Alibaba, they are collecting your information in the background. They have different mechanisms which you cannot see, which are then attached to your IP address. And these bugs linked to your IP address will detect every time your IP address goes to an e-commerce site of such. Now, all these e-commerce platforms have different way of doing it. And if you're studying with us in your business or information technology lecture, we expose you to some of those mechanisms and how you can use them. But all of these things are basically things that you can't see. They are actually pinned to your IP address and they tag your IP address. So every time you go e-commerce shopping, they know where you're going, where you're shopping, and they can basically tell what you're buying. So how do these e-commerce sites use that data? They use that to promote goods and services which you believe or you think that you want and eventually come to need. Remember, people don't buy because they want. People buy because they need. There is a temptation that says, I want, but psychologically, you only buy when you're convinced that you need. And how does e-commerce take you from want to need? It's through the information and the data they collect, and through giving you the right information or the right words or price that you want to hear. That's why Amazon is now one of the largest e-commerce platforms operating today. How did Amazon become successful? Amazon was Amazon when it started. Jeff Bezos had a dream. He had a vision. I want to have the most competitive, the smartest, and the best e-commerce platform in the world. He's truly made that happen. And that's because he was able to bring together the right analytical information about his business and his customers. And he built a system to deal with that information. And he has learned how to rely on that information to retain customers and also to generate new customers. So let me now take you to today's BizTalk. Once again, welcome. And let's get started and talk about this very important subject of business analytics today. So we're talking about business data or business analytics and how we use that information in order to make business decisions in today's economic world. As you all know, today's economy is not the way it were or was prior to COVID-19. The world has transformed. Economies have transformed. Businesses have transformed. Brick and mortar businesses prior to COVID-19, some never knew what e-commerce was. Some did not even have a website or a telephone mobile app. Now, 97.5% of businesses around the world have one or the other or both. COVID-19 has transformed the world. The world has gone from the simple philosophy of buying at brick and mortar stores to people now using online shopping as their first stop. I mean, where else can you get the convenience of shopping from your own bed? Before COVID-19, some customers never even imagined it. Let's talk about what is business data and what are analytics and how can you use them in making decisions to grow your business and increase revenue. Ladies and gentlemen, there is many definitions of business data. If I ask 15 of you, I'll get 15 different definitions. But let me ask one or two of you, who thinks they know what business data is? Can anybody give me a definition? Could you put up your hand, please, or wave your hand for me? Thank you. Anyone? Okay, I have one hand has gone up. Alina? Hello, Alina. Welcome to today's session. Tell me, what do you think business data is? Or
Hello, Mr. Wole. Hello,
hi, how
everyone.
are you?
Thank you.
What is business data
Good.
to you?
Thank you. So, I think business data is all information which we can collect for monitoring our business and put it into digital format.
Thank you. You're basically right. Business data are pieces of information, whether they're words, numbers, or addresses that you collect, which is data. And that data goes to your system, and that system uses it to produce information in business intelligence reports to help you target certain customers, price your product individually, or how to manage certain markets. So you are on the right track. Thank you, Alina. So business data, ladies and gentlemen, are any sorts of information that will help you grow your business or increase productivity, but most definitely increase revenue, which is a prime source. No business wants to operate unless there is revenue, which covers its costs and allows it to break even at minimum, but ultimately make a profit. Over time, we've learned that with the right business data analytics, business can flourish. For many businesses who don't believe in spending money on collecting data and having the right business data analytics attached to their ERP or their CRM, they have found out that they've lost market. And that has gone for many, many retailers around the world. So now let's look at the academic definition of business data, if I may. Business data, ladies and gentlemen, is the collective information related to your business, your company, and its operations. It can include any statistical information, raw analytical data, customer feedback data, sales numbers, and other sales information. It can include information about how many pieces of a particular item you've sold, how many people of a certain age bracket bought your product, how many people paid for your product in cash, Visa card. You can collect information about which bank your customers in a certain part of the world are using more often. And the reason we collect that, for example, if you are a Philippine-based business and you find that all your customers only buy through Citibank Philippines because they all have Citibank credit cards, that tells the business that maybe you should try to get a deal or a discount campaign together with Citibank. And what would that do for you? Because if you are able to strike that deal, then Citibank will promote your services not only to the customers who are already using their Citibank card, but to all the customers they have in their database. So that very simple piece of information can take you to the next level of business productivity and profitability. If you look at cards, airlines, if you look at Philippine Airlines has a credit card from one of the banks in the Philippines or two. Why? Because the airline found out that most of the people who buy their tickets use a credit card from those banks. Amex, American Express, offers an Amex card with all the major airlines around the world. Singapore Airlines, Cathay Pacific, Thai International, Qantas Australia, they all have an Amex card. Why does Amex, one of the leaders in charge card and credit card providers, why do they tie up? Because the airline itself has collected enough information about its passengers every time they book to know that this bank is the most popular bank that their customers use. So in order for the bank to get free leverage and more promotion to all the customers that hold that bank's credit card, they basically link up with that bank. And these are just two simple ways how business information or data collected can help a business. When we think of it, when you go to a hospital, your medical records are kept by that hospital. Why do you think they keep your medical records and information in a hospital database? It's very simple. So the next time you go back to hospital, the doctor doesn't give you the wrong medicine and kill you. So if you're unconscious, a doctor at any public hospital in the Philippines who accesses the government hospital's database can tell what's wrong with you and treat you accordingly. All of that is data collection. Business data, medical data records, medical record systems, which are basically targeted at managing the information about the hospital's customers. Who are a hospital's customers? It's patients. Okay. All right, let's go on. So we know that business data is a collective of information. It is important to remember that today more than ever, businesses have no option but to have both a brick and mortar business as well as an online business. And if you are focusing on an online business, then you need to collect business data because an online business without data will die. the data you collect through an online business is critical to you in the way you promote your product moving forward to not only the customers you already have, but to new customers who may have visited your site but never bought anything. Any good data strategy will have three clear components. It will have a clear purpose. It will have measurements of success, including timeframes in which they want to collect data and to what extent they want to collect. And they will have reason for why these measures are significant. So if we talk about, for example, Amazon, if Amazon collects data about how many girls, for example, in Singapore, buy fashion from the Amazon website every day in Singapore, how much the average dollar they spend is per purchase, what time of the day do they usually go in and buy, what age are they, and what size are they? What size do they wear? And that will tell them about the trend that certain girls are wearing at a certain age, because they know her age, her size, and the type of clothing she's buying. They also measure the spending habit. How much does this person spend every time they come to the site? All of this will help them in targeting the right advertising to that particular customer, which they do now, which is called focused advertising. All right. And remember, it's cheaper to retain your customers than to have to go and find new customers. Does everybody understand that? Okay, good. Business data analytics is basically the science of analyzing, studying, interpreting the information, and making business conclusions on how you're going to improve your business. Does everybody understand that? Can everybody put up their hands, please? Thank you. Regina, do you understand what I said, Regina? Regina, yep. Thank you, Regina. You look so stunning and red today, Regina. Welcome to today's session. All right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about it. What is important when you're trying to collect data? Remember, before you can analyze the data, before you can go to analytics, you need to collect the data. So before you collect the data, you must make sure that you have an accepted data practice, which is in line with your own government's requirements or international standards. You must make sure that you clearly define on your website and to your customers how you intend to use that data. You must make sure that at all times you honor and respect the user agreement which your customers have agreed to when they gave you their data. And of course, you must first ask permission. So first, you have to have good data practices. Two, you must define how you're going to collect it, how you're going to use it. You must make sure that you have permission from your customers, and then you must adhere to your promises and respect the agreement that you promised them not to share their data with unknown parties. You must adhere to the privacy you assured them you would give to their data. All right, these are four critical elements, because if you fail these quadrants, and most importantly, respecting the user agreement, you can find yourself dealing with your government and laws in your country about breaches of data privacy, which are now a big thing in the majority of countries around the world. Let's talk about data strategy. The first goal of collecting data in business is to make money, right? That's the only reason we collect data. Okay? Trust me, Amazon, Jeff Bezos does not collect data because he loves you or likes you. The only reason he collects your data is so he can juice more money out of you and make you spend more. You know how we squeeze an orange in a juicer? So what Jeff wants to find out is how much juice there is in the orange so he can squeeze it harder and drive you to more products that fit your buying psychology, so you will actually start looking at it. And he knows the more you look at it and the more temptation he throws out with prices, you will eventually buy it. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So build an information business based on facts that you collect from customers. And number three, remember that the more data you collect, the chances are the more new customers you've brought in and the more customer retention you will have, because the more data you collect, you will know how many new customers you have, and you will be able to focus on making sure that they remain your customer. You'll be able to monitor their buying trend. Does everybody understand that? All right, let's go to different types of data. There is two different types of data available to a business. For scientists, mathematicians, statisticians, entrepreneurs, and lawmakers, you have a choice of two different types of data. There's quantitative data, which is basically numerical information, and there's qualitative data, which describes things, i.e., it's descriptive information. Let's look at this example, okay? All right, let's look at this example. Can anybody tell me, oops, sorry, Sammy the cat. Okay, can anybody tell me anything about Sammy? Miss Adina, somebody is drawing on my screen, please. Can you see if you can get rid of the blue lines or remove that user? Somebody is drawing on my screen. Thank you so much. All right, so if you look at Sammy the cat, let's talk about his data. Let's talk about what is quantitative and what is qualitative. Okay, what data has been collected about Sammy the cat? Let's talk about quantitative. His tail is 30 centimeters, 18 inches long. He weighs 5 kilograms, 11.2 pounds. Sammy has one sister and one brother. He is 40 centimeters, 15.7 inches long, excluding his tail. All right, so what makes this data quantitative? It all refers to numbers and measurements. Does everybody understand that? Qualitative data. He is black all over except for his paws, chest, chin, and part of his tummy, which are white. It's descriptive, so it's qualitative. His hair is short to medium in length. Again, it's descriptive, it's qualitative. He spends most of the day asleep and tends to go out at night. It describes his habits. Again, it's descriptive, it's qualitative. Let's talk about the difference between qualitative data and quantitative data. Let's start with quantitative data, tells us what is happening. Qualitative data tells us why it's happening. Structured and searchable data, but when it's qualitative, it becomes unstructured data that needs interpretation. Again, somebody is drawing on my screen. Please refrain from doing it, otherwise I'll have you removed from the session. Common courtesy to me is stop drawing on my screen, please. Thank you. All right. Another element of quantitative data is numerical and quantifiable data, numbers. Qualitative data has no numerical data, okay? Non-numerical data, okay? Best for narrowing down, example, you understand the problem and opportunity, but need to find the best solution. The best data you use to narrow down a problem is numbers, percentages, quantitative data. Best for going wide, you want to explore a customer problem or opportunity and new human insights. So you want to read through all the comments your customers have given over the last 12 months. Then you would have to refer to qualitative data. Quantitative data is best for tracking whether something is working or not. Qualitative data is best for understanding why something is working or not. So numbers will tell you if it's working, okay? And then description or descriptive data will tell you why something is working or not working. Again, let's go back to what I just said. Quantitative data will actually show you common techniques like A/B tests experimentation, data, metrics dashboards, and structured surveys. They are forms in which you can collect quantitative data. However, with qualitative data, common techniques are customer interviews, talking to customers and recording their responses, analysis of reviews posted on websites, social media, and through customer support feedback chats, or open surveys, which you actually instruct a survey house to do about you, so you get the truth about your answers, or the answers you want about your products and service. Now, a lot of multinational companies don't do their own surveys. They actually ask a third-party independent firm to conduct the surveys for them and report the results, which makes it more efficient for them and lets their staff focus on running the business. So now that we have an idea of the difference between qualitative and quantitative, let's actually summarize that. Quantitative data includes age, height, weight, income, university size or company size or household size, group size, self-efficiency test scores, percent of lectures attended for a student at university, clinical skills performed by a doctor as part of his training, or the number of errors somebody makes during their daily job. So quantitative data is numerical. Qualitative data is categorical. It talks about gender, male or female, religion, Christian Catholic, Christian Orthodox, Muslim, whatever, marital status, single, married with 2 kids, 2 wives, whatever, native language, social class, qualifications, type of instruction. For example, for students, are they full-time or part-time? For a doctor, method of treatment at a hospital. For a school, the type of teaching approach used with a certain class or certain students, depending on how high they score or how low they score. And for the final one would be problem-solving strategy, which would be qualitative. Okay, does everybody understand some examples of the difference? One is numerical, one is categorical statements. Okay? Okay. All right, let's look at this table. This table, again, talks about quantitative and qualitative. It says, what is the definition? And you need to understand this table and this matrix. If you are going to use qualitative data, you should memorize this. The definition of quantitative is data that can be numerically analyzed and qualified into hard facts. Qualitative versus quantitative. Qualitative is non-numerical data that describes qualities, opinions, or feelings. All right, and it tells you what it's best for. Quantitative is best for drawing conclusions through larger scale studies, conducting statistical analysis. Qualitative is very good for formulating hypotheses and gathering detailed information from smaller groups before making a decision. Okay, so please, everybody, familiarize yourself with the difference between qualitative and quantitative, and then try to picture how you could use this information in your own business. All right, let's stop here. Does anybody have any questions so far, guys? Come on, put up your hand if you have some questions for me, please. Okay, so does everybody understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative? Yes or no? Who can give me some examples of quantitative data that they have had a business collect about them? Does anybody know any example? Any example of quantitative data? Okay, yeah, Alina. Okay, Alina, again. Go ahead, Alina. Go ahead.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
go
Ron. So,
ahead.
I think if the company sold 5 telephones, it will be quantitative data for a company. But if the company sold like just silver or white telephones, it will be quantitative, so descriptive data.
Thank you very much.
Qualitative. Yeah.
Good, excellent, excellent. Very good start. Thank you. Okay, let's go on. Let's go to the next person. Yes, Bikram, go ahead. Go ahead, Bikram.
So the company's turnover, like what is the turnover, what amount they sold out. That is what I'm going to say. So suppose if company has 10 lakh rupees turnover, that is quantitative data. And what kind of customer they got, and what feedback they got from the guest, what need to improve, that is a qualitative data.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as you go into the corporate structure and become management, quantitative data will become very important on a daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and yearly basis, because you'll be responsible for certain budgets. And the only reason you can monitor that is through quantitative data. Okay, does everybody understand that? Yeah? Okay. All right, let me go back to my chat. My lesson notes. All right, here we go. So let's define the two and make sure that you understand what they mean. Just one moment, please. One moment. Okay, let's talk about them. So we know what quantitative data is. It's data that can be numerically analyzed and quantified into hard facts. What are the advantages of quantitative versus qualitative data? Let's start with quantitative. It's relatively quick and easy to collect, and it's easier to draw conclusions because it's numbers which can be shown in graph form and easy to read. When you collect quantitative data, the type of results will tell you which statistical tests are appropriate to use. So if you're collecting financial information for profitability, you need to know what your cost of goods sold is, okay? And then you need to know all the other costs that you incur in selling it to the customer. So cost of goods sold is the cost of the goods that you sell to the customer. Okay, so depending on the type of information you want to collect and what you're going to use that information for, you would decide what elements of quantitative data to collect. Another advantage is that you can replicate it. Replicating a study is possible because your data collection is measurable and tangible for further applications. So if you were to say today, you collected statistics about what age the average girl that buys clothes from your e-commerce store is, and then you collected how much that girl's average spend is per day or per week, these are numbers. So if you're going to start a new business 3 months later in the same country selling other products, you can also use the data you already have to assess whether girls in that age bracket will be your target customers. All right. Does everybody understand what I'm saying so far? What are the disadvantages? What are the no-nos of quantitative data? Is there any no-nos? Quantitative data doesn't always tell you the full story, no matter what your perspective. So for many business, they need to collect quantitative data, and then they need to verify that through asking qualitative questions. With choppy information, it can be inconclusive. So if customers give you the wrong numbers, or if your data is not complete, you will not be able to draw the right conclusion. Quantitative research can be limited because it depends on whether you can secure those numbers or you have to go asking your customer for them. By focusing solely on numbers, there is sometimes a risk of missing larger focus information that can be beneficial, such as eating habits, country of residence, habits in shopping, and what brands they prefer. Okay, some of this may be better sought doing it on a qualitative basis. Okay, guys, what are the advantages of qualitative data? Why is qualitative data good for the business? Qualitative data offers rich, in-depth insights or stories that allow you to ask more questions and reach interpretation, whereby numbers just give you numbers on whether it's successful or not. But qualitative tells you why it's not successful, when is it successful, based on the comments left by your customers. Does everybody understand that so far? Okay. Qualitative data is great for exploratory purposes, especially if you're examining data about going into a new market or introducing new products in that market. Quantitative and qualitative data. Again, what are the advantages of qualitative data? As I said, it's great for exploratory purposes to identify issues or know issues, and it's great to use in qualitative research, all right? Qualitative research is very, very, very important because qualitative data can tell you how your customers feel. Do you understand that, guys? Yes or no? Okay, good. What are the disadvantages of qualitative data? Well, the disadvantages of qualitative data is that it's not statistically represented. So with quantitative, you can draw a graph. It's represented in numbers and statistics. With qualitative, it's not. It's a sentence or words that you have to read and analyze. It can also require multiple data sessions, which can lead to misleading conclusions. So what do we mean by misleading conclusions and multiple data sessions? That means to gather qualitative data, you may need to ask several questions to actually obtain a clear picture, depending on what the customer or the user that is going to complete the information or give you the data tells you. Okay? If he tells you I have 3 children but forgets to tell you their age, then that becomes an issue. If he describes that the 3 children go to school but doesn't tell you which school, that could also become an issue. So it's very important to make sure that we are collecting the right data. Okay, everyone? The takeaway is that it's tough to conduct a successful data analysis without both. Both qualitative and quantitative have their advantages and disadvantages, and in a way, they complement each other. Regardless of how much emphasis you put on the fact that they complement each other, the simple fact that in today's business, no business can survive without both quantitative and qualitative data. The average business has a lifespan, or brand has a lifespan of up to 15 years, providing it constantly refreshes its products and relaunches its brand. If the average brand didn't keep adding products regularly and didn't do something to get customer awareness regularly, they will not make it to 15 or 20 years. If you look at all of the biggest companies in the world who have survived that basic probation period or learning period, they are some of the biggest companies in the world. McDonald's, okay, some of the biggest airlines in the world, because they have been in business for so long and they've learned from the mistakes they made all along during that time. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Okay, great. All right. So let me go back and let me ask some of you, has anybody here ever collected quantitative data, and why? Who can tell me? Has anybody here ever collected quantitative data, and why? And tell me an example of what have you collected? Anyone? Come on, guys, wake up, please. Adalberto, can you give me an example? Adalberto, would you like to unmute your microphone, please? Go ahead. Hi, go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually related to quantitative data, let us
Yes.
say number of shoes.
Number of
store.
shoes sold of a particular
Yeah, number
style.
of
Yeah, very good.
of
Okay.
shoes.
And qualitative?
And the qualitative data, let us say the color of the shoes.
Very good. The color, the style, the description of the style, high heel, low heel. Yeah. Very good. Thank you,
Okay.
Adalberto. Thank you. Yes, Stephen, sorry. Is it Stephen? No. Yeah, it is Stephen. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen. Tell me, what are you going to share?
Yes, I did collect some quantitative data. This was zip codes where customers live. So that way it could help me to know which area most of the customers come from.
You
Then
could
I
narrow
came
it.
to figure out,
You can
I,
narrow
I
it
came to,
down much finer. You can narrow it down by zip code, street, house number, okay? Single story, double story, which will tell you about their income and buying capacity, all right? How many cars they have. All of this data will help you identify target customers. You own or rent your house. What area is it in? What sort of car do you drive? How many people is in your family? All of these questions can bring you data that is important for you. But yes, go ahead. You're on the right track. Go ahead.
no, I'm good.
Thank you very much for adding that, Stephen. Much appreciated. Okay, let me go back to the next person. Diliora. Hi, Diliora. What have you got to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, sir. How are you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to say that as a quantitative data, I think I've got a review of financial data in my at work,
Yes.
and as a qualitative data, I would say it's an interview where you go and pass the interviews face to face, and this.
All right, Diliora, I want you to repeat the pronunciation for me again. Look at me. I can't see you, Diliora. Can I? Okay, repeat after me. It's called qualitative. Can you say it? Qualitative.
Qualitative.
All right.
Okay.
It's very important that you pronounce it correctly because sometimes you say quantitative and you don't stress the L in qualitative, you might be misunderstood. And you're very, very much right, Diliora. When you collect financial information, it's quantitative or quantitative. And when you collect descriptions, it becomes qualitative. Thank you for sharing, young lady. Very good. Thank you. All right, let me go to the next person. Let me go to Bilkram Suna. Yeah, go ahead, Bilkram. Are you there, Bilkram? Go ahead.
Yeah, so every end of the month, I have to submit the transactions to my boss. So it's regarding how much money we have spent on particular subjects. So the money we have spent is a quantitative data, and on which subject we have spent, suppose electric bill or salary wages. So that is the qualitative data, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you would say to him is the spending. You'd tell him how much voltage or energy used. You'd tell him as a result of spending this much on electricity, the factory was able to produce this many units, etc. All of that would be numerical and statistical, and the qualitative data would describe the products you made and any special requirements in those products which took more time to produce or required more exertion or more power supply. But yeah, you're on the right track, Bikram. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Bikram. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, when you consider data, both forms of data are correct. If you go to hospital, they take your blood pressure as a number. They take your heartbeat as a number. They take your weight versus height versus age as numbers. And all of this is converted by the medical records computer into statistics important to the doctor who's treating you. Do you understand that? Yes or no? You all know that I have dental phobia, right? I've told you this before. I hate going to the dentist. The dentist is my biggest enemy. I call dentists butchers because they don't care about how much pain they put you through when they extract a tooth. I have had very bad experiences when I was at boarding school and I was forced to go to the dental nurse. And the dental nurse was this old lady in her 50s who used to treat us like, objects and put her drill in our teeth and fill our teeth and didn't care about how much pain we suffered. So I've grown up with this phobia to going to a dentist. So about 9 months ago, I had to get a wisdom tooth extracted. And the only way I could do that is they had to put me to sleep. So before the doctor would arrange for an anesthesiologist to come to the hospital day surgery and put me to sleep, they had to weigh me. They had to get my height. They had to get my weight. They had to make me stop eating for 12 hours before the extraction. They had to do a blood test. They had to check that I'm not allergic to certain methods of anesthesiology. And after 3 hours of tests, they agreed to put me to sleep and extract my wisdom tooth. And when I woke up, I had been there for 5 hours. Now, had I gone to a normal dentist and he just gave me an injection and I screamed my head off, he would have had the whole thing done in 10 minutes. All right. So there is reasons why everybody uses quantitative and qualitative data. But if we take it from a business perspective, do we take shortcuts with data? No, because the more shortcuts you take, the more money you risk losing. Okay. If you focus your spending dollar on attracting the wrong customer segmentation, then your cost of customer acquisition will go up, your profit will go down. Does everybody remember what customer acquisition cost is? Customer acquisition cost is the dollar spent in order to earn a customer, to get a customer. Customer acquisition cost. Okay. Customer life spend, or the average spend of a customer life journey, that's the average amount spent by a customer on a monthly basis over a period of 2 or 3 years. Now, you all know if you have a customer profile of 300 customers and you can show your investors that the average customer buys $100 worth of goods once a month, every month for 12 months, and that means every customer in your 1,000 customers spends $1,200 a month. Okay, sorry, $1,200 a year times 1,000 customers. You multiply 1,200 by 1,000, and that is a statistical ground for you to go to your investors and say, I need more money to grow my business so I can cater for these customers. So quantitative data becomes very, very, very important. Okay, especially if you're listing your company as a public company and you're trying to secure investment or raise funds, they rely on quantitative data. Okay, they would even want to know how many customers come to your website on a daily basis. That would tell them how many people you're attracting and what the actual statistical rate of people come to your website every day. Out of the 1,500 or the 2,000 or 2 million people that live in your targeted area that you're going to market, for example, your target market is the Philippines. The population of the Philippines is probably, take it off the top of my head, around 23, 24 million people. Okay. If 23 or 24 million people live in the Philippines and you know that your target customer is females, and you know out of that 23 million, there's say 17 million females, and only 2% of those females are visiting your website, of course, it tells you that your website doesn't have the viability that it requires or the visibility that it requires. Does everybody understand how quantitative data can help you? Yes or no? Thank you. Okay, let me go back to my material, please. Okay. Let's talk about data collection methods. We have learned the difference between different types of data and why data is important. Data collection is not a mechanical process. It's very much a methodological process. And what do we mean by methodological? You have to follow a certain method to collect it, to ensure that it's collected accurately. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. It's crucial to ensure your data is complete during collection phase and that it's collected legally and ethically. Remember what I told you? To collect it legally means you must actually be clear about why you're collecting the data, and you must make sure you have permission from your customers. Do you understand that, everyone? And this is not because Wally told you, this is because data privacy protection laws in nearly every country around the world stipulate that you are guided by the data collection guidelines which your government sets for you in your country. For example, if your employer collects data about you as an employee, your name, your address, your height, your age, your medical condition, and he needs that data because it will serve as a purpose for him to make a decision to employ you, your employer is required to keep that data for the duration of your employment, and he must keep record for up to 7 years after your last day of service. And that is the law in most countries. Now, if after 5 years you discovered that you caught cancer working for that employer in his factory, and you bring an action against that employer, and the employer is unable to produce your record, he would lose the case, and he would definitely be paying negligence and compensation. And he would also face action from the ministry responsible for manpower in your city or in your country, or the body that looks after industrial relations law. Okay, so data collection is critical. For example, if you go to a hospital and you're treated, the hospital must keep your medical record for a minimum of 7 years if you never return to that hospital. After 7 years, they must actually scan it into digital record. The digital record must be confirmed before they can destroy the physical record. So data collection carries very stiff guidelines and very serious penalties. Let's talk about it. There is different types of data. There is first-party data, which is collected directly from users by your business organization. Who can give me an example of first-party data? Anybody here? Who can tell me what is first-party data? Can anybody put their hands up? Come on, I want to speak to everyone, not just Bikram and Alina all the time. Somebody else talk to me, please. Come on, guys, you're all very confident people. Talk. Okay, who wants to tell me? Who can give me an example of first-party data? Okay, we have Payush. Hi, Payush. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Welcome to BizTalk, Payush.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead. Of course you are. Give me an example
Sir,
of first-hand party data. Go ahead.
yes. So first-hand data, or whatever you call it, like primary data, it is a data that we collect with ourselves. Like it can be, we can take the interviews of the people. Like if we are if we own any restaurant, so we can just ask about like whatever the meal they like and how affordable are they to them.
Okay, first-party data is data collected from your customer, from your target, from your source. Yes, you are correct. Thank you, Payush. Very good. Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, Payush just said students. And if Payush wants to rein that down, when he goes to university, the university collects first-party data about Payush. It collects where he comes from, who his father was, how old his mother and father are, what education they had, how many brothers and sisters he has, his previous education and grade point average to enter the university, his progress throughout the years at university, how many lectures he attends, how many he misses, how he scores in every exam. For example, if Payush gets 60 out of 100 in all his exams, but suddenly gets 99 out of 100 in an exam, which he's never got more than 60 in, that exam will come under the scrutiny of the academic registrar to check that Payush hasn't cheated or copied somebody else's work, because suddenly there's a great big difference in his score. So all of this is part of first-party data. Thank you very much, Payush. Let's go to second-party data. Second-party data, which is data shared by another business organization about its customers to the first-party data, okay? All right. So second-party data, which is data shared by another business organization about its customers or its first-party data. First-party data can be its customers, its patients, its passengers. They are all first-party data. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? For example, if we go back to an airline, for example, Singapore Airlines, actually sharing its information with Amex and saying to Amex, we have 35,000 passengers who use your card on a monthly basis. They're sharing quantitative first-hand data with Amex, because where did they get the number of people who use Amex? They collected that as first-hand data from their customers who use their Amex card. Would you agree with that, Claude? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Would you agree with that, Alina? Thank you. Stephen, would you agree with that, Stephen? Okay. Prayush. Payush, do you agree with that, Payush? Yes or no, Payush? Open your microphone. Are you there, Mr. Payush? Do you understand what I just explained?
Yes, sir, I understood. Actually, it
Thank you.
was muted by the host.
That's okay. It's all right. It's okay. The host is helping me out, so she makes sure everybody can hear you. It's all right. When I speak to you, it's okay for it to be open. So Payush, let me take you one step down further in collecting first-party data. I'm going to use a very simple example, an example that you can all relate to. How many of you go to McDonald's? Does everybody here go to McDonald's? Put your hands up. Thank you very much. Do you know that every time you walk into McDonald's, McDonald's collect whether you're a male or female, you're an adult or a child, the time you visited, and they use that to actually graph the busiest times of the day for males or females, adults or children. McDonald's all over the world collects that information. Now, because in some stores they have these units where you self-order, they don't collect it by asking you directly that question, but they offer you to get a McDonald's membership card or McDonald's points card. And when you get that McDonald's points card, they ask you male, female, your age, the year of birth, how many children do you have, how often do you come to McDonald's? So every time you go to the machine, you scan your loyalty card and they're collecting data. All right. McDonald's can tell you how many children eat French fries at their restaurants every day of the week, depending on how many people have scanned their loyalty card. McDonald's can tell you in countries like China, where they still take your order over the counter, from every time you order and you walk into the McDonald's and this little Chinese girl, welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order, sir? And first thing she types, male. And the computer will say, adult, teenager, child. She'll say male adult, male teenager, male child. Okay, and then the computer will ask her male plus children, male plus wife, male plus female, and they will key that in with every order as they take your order. In different countries, they collect data in different ways. Now that McDonald's is going from cashier taking your order to self-ordering, the data they're collecting is a bit different depending on whether they have a loyalty card. You understand that? Let's look at airlines. How many of you here fly? Does anybody fly regularly? Anybody fly regularly? Right, okay. Well, airlines will always say to you, get a frequent flyer card from us. They all try to get you to get a frequent flyer card, right? But for us business people that travel regularly, I don't have every airline's frequent flyer card. I pick 2 airlines who give me the most advantages around the world. And these big airlines have partnerships with smaller airlines, right? For example, I'm an Australian. When I was a kid, I used to be a Qantas Platinum member because my dad was Qantas. Before I was a teenager, when I was a baby, my dad used to be a golden frequent flyer with Pan America, Pan Am, if you all remember, that are no longer in business. He used to be one of Pan Am's best customers. As a CEO, he used to be on a Pan Am 747 twice a week. And I love Pan Am. I used to travel as a little kid with these girls wearing their blue skirt, jackets, and hat. And they used to serve me popcorn and ice cream on board the plane in the first class cabin on Pan Am. And I used to say, go home and say to Mummy, I want Pan Am, Mummy, Pan Am. And my mum would say at 5 or 6 years old, what's he talking about? And my dad would say he wants to fly Pan Am again. All right. But those airlines are no longer around. And now what we do as business people, we choose 1 or 2 frequent flyer cards and we choose the credit card that will give us more miles for the dollar spent. All right, so all of this is quantitative data to the airlines. And at the end, they use that as qualitative data to market their products or services. Okay, does everybody understand where I'm coming from? Okay, good, excellent. Thank you, guys. Let's move on. Okay, the third party data is data which is data that's been aggregated and rented or sold by a business organization that don't have a connection to your company or users. So can anybody give me an example of third-party data that you use? Anybody? Come on, I want to hear voices, guys. No one? Anyone? Please? No? All right, guys. So what is third-party data? In most businesses, sometimes we want to go into a new market, but we don't have data about that new market. So we go to a research firm in that market and ask them, do you have data about how many people in your country have this type of house, or how many in your people in your country earn this amount of money? It might be data you buy from the government, from their statistical bureau. Every government keeps statistics about its population, but this would be considered third-party data, which is collected by another organization. Do you understand that, guys? You all know that mobile numbers are a very big item in the illegal data trade, okay? So what happens is people around the world have gone to jail because they used to work for phone companies and they thought they could make money without their employer knowing. And they used to actually download millions of people's phone numbers, names, and addresses from the directory services computer and sell it to insurance companies or people that want to promote their goods and services. Now, of course, they can't do that anymore because data protection and data privacy laws prohibit that. Okay, so the only place you can buy data is from people like government or data research firms who have done surveys from customers who have authorized for their information to be used. Do you understand that, everyone? Yes or no? Okay. If you go to a hospital and they're going to do surgery on you, some hospitals will ask you, can we use your surgery data for medical research? Can we use it to train medical doctors during your surgery? That is basically using your data and taking it and using it to teach doctors. And that would be using third-party data that the School of Medicine took from hospitals in order to use at universities and teach new doctors. It would still be considered third-party data because they didn't collect it themselves. It wasn't given to them by their patients. The patients were the hospital's patients, and the hospital is sharing data about all the patients they've treated with that illness. And then the university will use that as statistical information to teach new doctors. That's a form of third-party data. Let me go back to my notes. Okay, so does everybody understand what I mean between first party, second party, and third party data? Can everybody wave their hands to me, please? Diliora, do you understand, Diliora? Diliora, do you understand? Okay. Payush, do you understand? Good, excellent. Thank you, guys. Okay, let me go on. Okay, let's talk here about data itself. Let's talk about, we've talked about data collection, but let's talk about what is important in the process of data collection. First, we must find a way to generate that data. Where are we going to get that data from? 2, how are we going to collect it? Through what source? 3, how are we going to process that data into information that will help us improve our business? 4, where are we going to store that data? 5, how are we going to manage that data to ensure it's protected and we don't leak it and we don't get ended by prosecution by the government for data protection or data leakages or illegal use of people's data? 6, how are we going to analyze it? And when we analyze it, how are we going to visualize the results so that management can better interpret those results and improve business strategy or pricing? Before collecting data, there are several factors you need to define. One, what are the questions you want to answer? What are the subjects you need to collect data from? Are they customers? Are they companies? Who are they? Nisa, please remove the line that you have just put on my screen, or I will have to remove you from this session. Please refrain from drawing on my screen. Okay, the collection time frame. How many weeks or how many months or how many days will you go on collecting that data? And which data collection method are you going to use? Is it going to be automatic collection from the system, so that back end of your website collects the data and puts it into a database? Or is it going to be data that is recorded and that is scanned and the data is extracted? So you need to actually decide on how you're going to collect it. The first method available to business, of course, is surveys. And surveys are physical or digital questionnaires that gather both qualitative and quantitative data from the customer or the subject. One situation in which you might conduct a survey is gathering attendee feedback after an event. For example, you go to a lecture or training session and they ask for your participant evaluation of the session. Two, you go to a restaurant and they ask you to leave a feedback form. All of this is data collection through survey methodology. While physical copies of surveys can be sent out to participants, online surveys present the opportunity for distribution at scale. So is it cheaper to do it physically or online? Of course, today with software, CRMs that have survey mechanisms, or software like Monkey and several other free survey tools online, you can use that to create inexpensive, easy to use surveys and send the links to your customers to fill them in, and you would be able to get data and download Excel sheets to analyze that data very quickly. And what would it allow you to do? If you use online surveys, you could target your whole market. You could target the full demographic. You could basically say that my demographic right now is every female in the Philippines, or the whole population of the Philippines. When you do it online electronically, providing they have a mobile phone, an app, or visit a website or an email address, you have larger exposure to more data. Something to watch out for when crafting or running surveys is the effect or bias, including it can be easily accidentally write survey questions with a biased lean. Watch out for this when creating questions to ensure the subjects answer honestly and aren't swayed by your wording. Let's look at number one. Because your subjects know their responses will be read by you, their answers may be biased towards what seems socially acceptable. For this reason, consider pairing survey data with behavioral data and other collection methods to get the full picture. The biased or leading question. Number one, our product reduces your tension by 10%. Would you like to buy it? This is biased because you're asking him a direct question. A biased survey question like this one above prompts or leads a respondent to answer in favor or against a specific outcome, resulting in accurate data. The example mentions a reduction in tension that might influence the respondent to indicate they would make a purchase. A better question would be, how likely are you to buy this product? Examples don't need to be as extreme as the one highlighted to be considered biased. All right. How likely are you to buy this product? It's no longer biased, it's open, and the people answering it will feel much better answering it, and you're more likely to get an honest answer. To avoid bias, use neutral language. Don't favor an option explicitly or implicitly, and don't lead a respondent to an answer. Vary the order of options in a list. This should be done across questions with similar answers to ensure a respondent won't make a decision based on chronological sequencing. So if you have 50 questions and A is always good, that would be wrong, because, for the person answering, he might just answer A all the way down. So you should always toggle your answers. Question 1, A is good. Question 2, B is good. Question 3, D is good. You should always toggle the answers. Let's look at the ambiguous questions. How do you feel about your purchase? This question uses ambiguous, imprecise language. Qualifying or assessing subjective attitude is very difficult, guys. And the burden shouldn't fall on the customer. That is unfair to the customer. A better approach is to provide options. How satisfied are you with your purchase? Are you extremely satisfied, somewhat satisfied, neutral, somewhat unsatisfied, or extremely unsatisfied? Now, let me go back to this. How many of you have actually answered a survey? Can you put your hand up? Anybody has answered a survey? Thanks, Lorena. Tell me, what sort of survey have you answered? Go ahead, Lorena. Lorena, what sort of survey have you answered?
I already answered the survey from the Kingston, sir.
All right. And did you find it was biased, or it gave you a choice of answers?
Actually, it says some is personal regarding for my parents.
All right. So basically, what it did is ask you whether how you enjoyed the lecturer, whether you thought he was average,
Actually,
above average, right? Correct?
also have.
Also have, right. Okay,
Yes.
thank you for that. Appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, for most of us, when we answer a customer survey, depending on who's giving you those questions or answers, they could be biased or subjective. All right. Has anybody here ever had questions asked of them in a survey where they felt uncomfortable answering them? Anyone? Can anybody give me an example? Claude, can you give me an example? Go ahead, Claude. Can you open your microphone?
Sure. Thank you, Wally. Yes, certain technology companies, I won't mention by name, but have had to ask me certain private questions, which I really felt very uncomfortable, especially in South Africa when it comes to political and social communication. So I won't mention names, but yes, it has definitely brought some very uncomfortable scenarios.
And what that's left you with is an uncomfortable feeling about doing business with them. Is that correct, Claude?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks. So what Claude has generated here or said to us is, by asking the wrong questions, you make the customer get negative perceptions about your brand, and you lose the customer's trust. You follow me? Yeah. I'll give you another example. Many years ago, I used to be the global head of human resources. I used to fly to 27 countries every year for a shipping company. And my prime aim was to recruit seagoing officers from 27 different countries to man 177 cargo ships around the world. And I got very annoyed when sometimes I were told by the people at the check-in counter, when I checked into airlines and I was flying business class, but my aircraft was delayed, and I asked either for them to put me on another airline or send me to a hotel. And their response was, "But sir, you can afford business class, sir. You can afford a hotel. The delay may be only 3 hours. If you want to use the airport hotel, you pay for it yourself." So they automatically assumed that because I was flying premium business class, I was paying for it. But the natural answer to that is I wasn't paying for it. Company, it was corporate. If they read the name of the purchaser or the ticket, it shows my company's name and my job title. So what happened after a while? I stopped flying that airline. I had a negative perception of the way that airline treated my information. Let me give you another example. Does everybody here know Shangri-La Hotels? Who knows Shangri-La Hotels? You all heard of Shangri-La Hotels? Shangri-La are one of Asia's most reputable, expensive hotels. They are 5-star hotels, and they started in Hong Kong, and they are now headed in England, in the UK, and they're one of the world's exclusive hotel groups. They don't have many hotels, but for the hotels they have, they're very upmarket. I used to live in the UAE, and I had a habit of going to Shangri-La, Burj Dubai, every week with my secretary for lunch. We had a weekly meeting for lunch every week where I used that to motivate my first assistant and second assistant secretaries on business. Now, I know it's not normal for a senior vice president to take secretaries out every week, but I found that that was the right scenario for us to have a discussion without the whole office interrupting us, okay? So every week I would go to the hotel and we'd have this meeting and leave. One week, the two girls, if you know Shangri-La, every Shangri-La has two girls wearing a uniform. And when you walk into a Shangri-La, they open the doors in sequence and they both look at the guest, smile, "Good afternoon, sir, welcome to Shangri-La. Good afternoon, ma'am, welcome to Shangri-La." Okay, but I was a regular. So on this day, they opened the door. "Good afternoon, Mr. Rowder, welcome to Shangri-La." Okay, everybody in the foyer heard my name. Okay, on the next day when I came back, the same two girls opened the doors. "Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Rowder. Welcome to Shangri-La. I see today, Mr. Rowder, you have somebody else with you." What did my wife say, Claude? What do you think happened? What was the reaction, Claude? What do you think happened, Claude?
I assume is that she would be very, very uncomfortable.
Do you think that day we had a pleasant lunch, Claude, or do you think she made me explain?
She had to make you explain.
And can I ask you, Claude, do you think it was a cheap lunch that day, or did it cost me money?
It definitely cost you a lot of money.
Let me tell you what happened, Claude. She interrogated me, and then she rang my secretary to find out that my secretaries were with me. She knew them. And after that, she said, "Han, you've upset me. Can we go across the road to the mall?" So we went to the mall, Claude. And you know what it ended up costing me, Claude? It cost me a new Louis Vuitton handbag. And you know why? Because she said, "You caused me anger and frustration. You should have told me that you were here with your secretaries yesterday." So
Exactly.
do you think I ever went back to that hotel again? No.
No, definitely not.
Thank you so much, Claude. So do you understand what I mean by direct, indirect questions, which can be perceived in the wrong way, guys? Yes or no? Yeah? Do you all understand that? Thank you very much. Okay, let me go to my PowerPoint. Okay, all right, so we know about the ambiguous question. Let's avoid ambiguity. People must think critically and develop precise questions and options for responses, because the more clear and precise your question, the more accurate the data. And if a question can be answered with yes or no, that is statistical. How many answered yes? How many answered no? Okay, you could basically say, or a Likert scale that prompts the respondent to select a number that indicates their level of agreement with the statement, satisfaction of your product or dissatisfaction of the product. For example, you fly Qantas, and when you come off your flight, you get an email saying, "Please rate the service on the flight you took, and please give us feedback." And all their questions have a number from 1 to 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. Please don't ask me what I rate them recently because you don't want to know. But they use that to get a clear indication. And now, before they used to collect the name of the passenger and your frequent flyer number, and I refused to answer it. So now you can submit your survey anonymously, okay? And I do, but I refuse to tell them who I am because I'm afraid that they'll use that against me the next time I fly with them. Okay? All right. So please also consider the conjoint analysis, which is conducted via specialized survey to reveal how much a customer values a certain set of attributes. Now, when we talk about conjoint analysis, it means by tying the customer to a name and measuring that particular customer's purchases over years to actually focus deeply on the attributes of what he buys and how much he spends. But this is very tailored design data, and usually the people that use this sort of analysis are multinationals who are measuring high profile customers. For example, the people that buy Rolls-Royce, the people that buy Rolex, the people that buy AP watches, they collect conjoint data about them. All right, the complex question. If you had to get work using a bicycle, you have to go to work using a bicycle, bus, train, car, or foot. Which would you choose? Consider annual precipitation, your transportation budget, and carpooling opportunities. Okay, so the complex question. If I was the average commuter, do you think I understand what annual precipitation means? No. I would, but would the average commuter understand it? Okay, so if I say to some of you here, tell me what is annual precipitation, you would all look at me and give you this dirty look, right? So if I ask you, how do you go to work every day? Bus, train, or car? Very simple. If I ask you in a country like Vietnam, how do you go to work every day? Carpooling. No one in Vietnam uses carpooling. It's not a common form of transport. So when we draw questions, we have to make sure that those questions are suitable to that market. Do you understand that, everyone? The question above assesses propensity for transportation methods, perhaps to help a city decide whether to allocate funding to bike share programs, commuter rail services, or bus routes. However, this question is overly complex, making it difficult for respondents to answer. If the question is overcomplicated, it can become what's known as a double-barreled question, and you're being guaranteed the wrong answer, because people will not answer it honestly because it diminishes their understanding of the question. Okay? All right? So to avoid complexity, trim the fat. Cutting unnecessary qualifiers could ease the intellectual burden on the customer. Understand, however, that you risk perpetuating the ambiguity discussed previously by making assessments more open-ended. So try to keep them close-ended and factual. Split a complex question into multiple questions and try to collect simple data based on a number scale or simply yes or no. Employ a pairwise ranking system, which prompts respondents to rank options in order of preference, which makes it easier for them to answer and still gives you the analysis you want. Qualitative interviews and focus groups are alternative methods of receiving detailed answers if time and effort allows. Now, for a lot of multinational companies or brands, even though they collect data online or through electronic mechanisms, sometimes they find it necessary to employ a research firm to actually survey probably 100 or 1,000 of their customers at random and ask more detailed questions to make sure that the quantitative numbers that they have represent an accurate measurement. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And from using a statistical sample of, for 10,000 customer, you survey 1,000, that could be used as a statistical acceptable level to compare with. Now, how do they decide what is the acceptable level? That will depend on how big the company is, how many customers they have. Of course, if they have 100,000 customers, they probably have to random probably somewhere like 10%, somewhere between 5 and 10% for them to use it as a basis for comparative analysis. All right, data analytics is the process of examining the data that you've collected to actually draw management trends or trends for management to be able to analyze and help them improve the business. Does everybody understand that, guys? Yeah? Okay. All right, remember, data analysis is a very specialized field. In most businesses, when they collect information, they have one or two people who work full-time analyzing data and preparing reports for management, especially at board level, okay? Now let's talk about different types of analytics. There are 4 different types of analytics, Claude, Purita, Adina, my host. They are descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and what I call prescriptive analytics. Now, you might all be asking yourself, well, sir, why do we need all this? Why don't we just call it analytics? Because each of these gives us vital stimulant information to help us run our business. And depending on the business you're running, you may want to focus on a particular type of data or 2 particular types of data. Descriptive analytics describes what has happened over a period of time. You need that. It is statistical interpretation used to analyze historical trends, purchasing patterns, spending patterns, gender patterns, behavior patterns, all sorts of patterns. Do you understand that? Okay. For example, have the number of views on our website gone up over time? That would be descriptive. Are sales stronger this month than last month? Okay. All right. Or we could say we want to look at Adina's sales monthly for the last 5 years. We want to know 5 years ago in January, did Adina have higher sales to January this year? And if so, why? Was there a festival in January last year? Did we have a discount? So historical data, descriptive analysis, or descriptive analytics can give us a deeper insight to why things are happening. Do you all follow that? Okay, good. E-commerce. In e-commerce, descriptive analytics can be used to assess customer information, such as browsing behaviors, past purchases, and wish list selections, valuable customer data, and determine the most popular promotions. In January, we had a denim promotion at 10%. We sold $1 million. In February, we had a denim promotion at 6%. We sold $100,000. In January, we sold Levi's. In February, we sold Armani. But Armani are much more expensive. So should we run another Armani promotion, or should we focus on selling more Levi's at 10% and use that to generate more sales? Because there's more chance of people buying Levi's than Armani. Does everybody understand the hypothetical suggestion? Okay. Healthcare. Descriptive analytics can be helpful in the healthcare industry to examine various patient data and find trends for better diagnosis, treatment histories, and outcomes. It helps medical practitioners and healthcare providers with respect to enhanced treatments and reducing medical expenses. Can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what data do you think that doctors use or researchers use when they come up with new forms of surgical procedure or medication? They use descriptive analytics that is gathered by research doctors all over the world. Okay? So when a doctor says, hey, Claude, do you mind if I use your history for student teaching? Can I have your permission? I won't use your name, just your age and your data. And if Claude says yes, that will become a case study for medical students at universities, but they will never know who Claude is. Only the doctor will. Now, why does the doctor need Claude's information? Because if he teaches that case study to students and anything goes wrong, that doctor has to be able to say that the information I used teaching my medical students was factual, and here's the permission that I have to use it. All right. Now, it rarely happens, but it has happened. And that's why doctors need to get your permission. All right. Does everybody understand that? Okay. What are diagnostic analytics? This focuses more on why something happened. It involves more diverse data inputs and a bit of hypothesizing. What is hypothesizing? Making or assuming assumptive conclusions, hypothesis. If this were the case, this should happen. Okay? All right. For example, when my daughter did her first maths test at school in primary 1, I thought that if she got 9 out of 10, she would be over the moon. But the first day she came back with 9 out of 10 and she was crying, I find out that my hypothesis was wrong. That now today students are not happy with 9 out of 10. They are very, very, very shy because her best friend sitting next to her got 10 out of 10 and she felt like she's not as smart as her friend. So my hypothesis went straight out of the window, Claude, and I had to sit down with my daughter and explain why 9 out of 10 for her first maths test was okay, as long as she gets 10 out of 10 the next math test after. And do you all want to know why she was crying, guys? Let me tell you. She said, Daddy, the teacher said you add or subtract these numbers, and if the total is different, you write it down, okay? So she did her 9 questions, and it was 100 minus 5, 95 plus 5, 75 minus 1 plus 1. And then she came to the last question, which said 100 minus 0. Right, Claude? 100 minus 0, well, based on the teacher's instructions, if anything changes. So my daughter said, well, Daddy, there's no change. 100 minus 0 is 100. Nothing changed. So I left it blank. So she came home and she was crying. She said, Daddy, the teacher doesn't like me. I hate that school. I don't want to go there anymore. I don't want to go to the nuns, the ladies with flying hats. They don't like me. The teacher gave me only 9. She's punishing me. My friend is just as bad as me, but she got 10 out of 10. So I explained to her, sweetheart, 100 minus 0 is 100. Why didn't you write 100? And her argument was the teacher did not tell us the correct way. The teacher said if the answer is different, but 100 minus 0 is nothing's changed. So knowing that, the daddy called the teacher, the head of the maths department, which was formerly an NUS mathematics lecturer, who I know from NUS. And I said to her, listen, I hate to bother you, young lady, but I know you're an academic and we're both academics. So let me ask you, if I said to you 100 minus 0, is there any change to the number 100? She said, no. I said to her, yesterday when you gave the maths test, how did you ask the girls to write the answer? It's their first maths test. She said, I told them that if the answer changes the number, to write the number. I said, so were you correct in giving my daughter 0 for that question? And believe me or not, she took 2 minutes to answer. She said, Wally, I think I asked the question the wrong way. I misled the girls. It's my fault. So the next time my daughter got 10 out of 10 every time. Do you understand what I mean by asking an ambiguous question? Okay. I'm sorry to bother you with my personal stories, everyone. I just hope that when I share them, they mean something with you. So it is very important to ask the question in the right way. Talking about diagnostic analytics, did the weather affect beer sales? Yes or no? Yes, because if it rained, less people drank beer because they didn't want to go out under the rain. If you go to a pub in Germany or in England and there's no shelter and you're standing in the beer garden, well, of course I'm not going to drink under the rain because the pub is not going to pay for my hospital treatment when I suffer from pneumonia. Well, I hope they're not. I hope they don't encourage me to drink under the rain, okay? All right. So diagnostic analytics dig deeper and get more information about behavior. Does everybody understand that? Okay, let's go on. Next one, or let's just compare these by diagram to make it easier for you. All right, Why did so many umbrellas sell this month? This is because it rained a lot this month. So this is an example of diagnostic analytics. Why did so many people buy umbrellas this month? Because it rained so heavily. Everybody needed an umbrella. Let's talk about data analytics again, as far as predictive analytics are concerned. This moves to what is likely going to happen in the near-term future. It is the process of using data to forecast future outcomes. The process uses data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and statistical models to find patterns that might predict future behavior. For example, what happened to sales the last time we had 45 degrees for 1 month? How many weather models predict a hot summer over the next 12 months? Now, to find that out, you would have to go to the Bureau of Meteorology, buy third-party data about the forecasted weather for the next 12 months to find out how many days you're going to have with 41 or 42 degrees, so you can see whether you can make future predictions about whether sales are going to go up or down and whether you should have a special offer in that month, or whether you should hire more staff, or whether you should increase the number of people in your factory to deal with higher demand. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Predictive analytics. Let's start with predictive analytics. The first thing you need to do is define the project. 2, you need to come up with a method of gathering the collection of data, how you're going to gather it. You need to analyze the data. You need to put it into statistical format, and then you need to model it. Okay? So you collect how many people, data from your computer, how many people spent money the last time that you recorded 41 degrees, providing the temperature is recorded in your system. Now, if you don't have the temperature that day, then you would go back to your computer. You would find out on what dates did people spend more than average. Then you would have to go to the Bureau of Meteorology and check with them what was the temperature on these days. And then you would use that to come up with certain models which would predict an outcome, and you would actually deploy that outcome into a report and use that for future business. Does everybody understand that, guys? Yes or no? Okay. Prescriptive analytics. This suggests a course of action. And this course of action basically is something to use in the future. In this, uses advanced processes and tools to analyze data content and recommend optimal course of strategy moving forward. Simply put, it seeks to answer the question, what should we do? We should add an evening shift to the brewery and rent an additional tank to increase output if the likelihood of a hot summer is measured as an average of these 5 weather models, and average is above 59%. So where did they get the average and the forecast, the models? They got that from where? They got that from predictive analysis, right? So they had to conduct predictive analysis before they go to prescriptive analysis, right? So the result of the predictive analysis would then become the data for prescriptive analysis. So now that they've got the predictive analysis, they need to analyze. Now, okay, we know that there's going to be high sales again. Do we need to increase production? Do we need to go to 24-hour production? How much beer can we put up in 24 hours? All right. They go into specific data because this data has to be accurate. Prescriptive analysis has to be accurate, because if they're out by 1%, 2%, or 5%, that could mean $100,000 in additional costs. Does everybody understand that, guys? Yes or no? Okay. So let's talk about the 3 different types. Descriptive analytics asks what happened. Predictive analytics asks what will happen in the future, and prescriptive analytics asks how can we make it happen so we can generate more revenue based on the information and the models we generated through predictive analytics. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Can I give you a simple example? I keep using this example. I know some of you might be sick of it. Let me give you a simple example. Every time a lady goes to a salon, and if you go back to the same salon every time, and your salon has a computer, they keep your profile in that computer. You know that, right? They know your name, how often you visit, who your regular stylist is, what color he usually puts in your hair, and what sort of treatment you undergo. And they know, based on that, what times of the year you come. They know when you spend more money. They know the average girl spends more money on making herself look beautiful. For example, when she is going out with a new boyfriend, when she wants to impress her husband or boyfriend, when she's got a new boss in the office, or when she's going to a graduation party, or when it's her wedding, right? Usually that's what they spend more money on, right? So they are able to act, and on her birthday, of course, her birthday, don't forget her birthday. So what do they use? They use predictive and prescriptive analytics. They actually go to their database and find out how many of our female customers celebrate a birthday in this month, and how many of them came to our salon before their last birthday. Did they come on their birthday, the day before, or 1 week before? And then they go to prescriptive analytics and come up with a promotional campaign that will bring these girls back for this birthday. And they focus on having enough stylists on hand to be able to make this girl look beautiful so she doesn't miss the birthday party. Do you understand what I'm telling you guys? Do you understand the simple model? I know it's simple, but I need you to relate it to everyday life. Do you understand that? Yeah. A chef in a restaurant uses that model every day. For example, if Adalberto owned a steakhouse, and he, through the predictive model, came up with a model that said that during Christmas, the month of December, he always sells 10 times more steak than January through November. All right. He could actually use that to predict on what days people eat steak, who are the customers who spend the money on steak, how do they like it cooked, how long does it take the kitchen to cook it, what is the maximum capacity they can put at the grill at any one time to service the 100 customers in the restaurant. They go into specific detailed analysis by using predictive models and going into prescriptive models. Do you understand that, everyone? Yes or no? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's talk about data analytics in the food and beverage industry. In the food and beverage industry, they use data analytics to understand their customers' preferences, to streamline production and tracking to making sure they have the right product and enough on it on any certain day, to develop more efficient energy management for their kitchens or their production areas if it's a factory, and to make sure that they price their product at the right price in order to keep their food costs down and sell it with a profit. These are only some of the very, very common reasons of data analytics in the F&B industry, okay? Let me tell you, the average restaurant, does anybody know what the average food cost should be? If you're a simple restaurant, you operate a food stall, what should your food costs be? How high should it be? Does anyone know? Based on international standard. Okay, what do I mean by food costs? I mean the cost of the raw material and the cost of putting that meal on a plate and serving it to your customer. Okay, Purita, do you know? Hi, Portia, do you know the answer, Portia? Are you there, Portia? Portia is not answering. Okay, all right, let's go to the next student. T Kim, do you know the answer? Go ahead, T Kim.
Hello.
Hi, do you know what the average food cost should be?
Well, in my opinion, the average food cost should be about 30% the product that we sell.
Great, excellent. Usually in most industries, depending on the market you're in, food costs can range between 24.5% It's never as low as 24%. If it's low as 24%, it becomes junk food. It usually goes from 24.5% up to 30 or 31% at its highest. But let me tell you, if you're running your food costs at 30%, and I'm not giving you a hard time, T. Kim, that means you need to take a serious look at the cost of raw material. Because today, more than ever, average industry food costs internationally is capped at around 28.5%. So that might want to be a project for you to start asking questions using the predictive model and the prescriptive model. What is causing the food costs to hit 30? And how can I bring it back to 28 or 28.5? But let me tell you, a lot of very high-end restaurants, French restaurants, 5-star Michelin star restaurants today are running 30%. But that's because they choose to run that. But for the average manufacturer, hotel, or everyday restaurant, if you're running 30%, then you are really, really seriously in need of reviewing your food cost. And you need to take serious steps at predictive and prescriptive analysis. You already have the descriptive. You just need to take it to the 2 next stages. Does that help you, T. Kim? Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, let me go back to my screen share. Okay, so they also use it to understand customers, because data analytics can help you understand your customers to actually continue growing your business as sustainable growth. If you run a food and beverage industry, you have to meet customer demands. Today, customers are becoming much more health conscious. Today, more than ever, customers are very much concerned about value for money. You know, I'm not sure, has anybody been to a fast food restaurant recently and ordered truffle fries, French fries with a truffle flavor? Do all of you know that none of these restaurants use real truffle, right? None of them use real truffle oil. They all use a food chemical, or food flavoring agents, food flavoring chemicals, which are humanly consumable to actually create the false flavor of truffle. No restaurant across the world uses real truffle oil for truffle fries. There's only one restaurant that I know of, and that's Gordon Ramsay's, and he charges you $120 for a plate of French fries because it's got real truffle and truffle oil on it. But if you go into your average fast food restaurant and they say $19.99 for French truffle fries and a hamburger, I promise you it's not proper truffle oil. All right. So you need to remember, today's consumer is becoming a lot smarter. Do you think the average consumer will pay $25 for truffle fries? You're kidding yourself. Do you think the average consumer is going to go to Gordon Ramsay's to pay $150 for a hamburger? You're kidding yourself. The average consumer pays somewhere between $7 and $15 for a hamburger. But Gordon Ramsay's not targeting the average consumer. Gordon Ramsay's not selling hamburgers. Gordon Ramsay's selling the Gordon Ramsay name because he's a crazy guy. People want to see him yell and shout at his staff and become psychotic. So that's why they're paying $150 for the performance. They're not paying for the hamburger. Does everybody understand that? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so understanding continuous evolving customer behavior is critical for any food and beverage industry. Understanding your customer or being customer centric is absolutely critical in the F&B industry. If your executive chef doesn't know customer trend and doesn't actually talk to the customers coming into the restaurant on a daily basis or regular basis by going into the dining room and asking for feedback, you will eventually find yourself losing customers because you can't keep up with your competitors. All right. A food and beverage business can analyze top 10 trending products that have been selling well. The data is compared to the previous 13 months period to ensure that that is an actual item in demand. This would help them gain insights into what customers prefer and what they don't like. importantly, it will ultimately show them that they're meeting customer preferences and increasing customer satisfaction by providing customers what they want, what they feel, what they want to eat. Do you understand that? Let me ask you guys, when you go to a restaurant, what do? Do you walk into any restaurant, or do you walk into a restaurant based on what you feel like eating? Is that right? Yeah. So if me and Claude decided that today we're going to eat steak, and we went to a steakhouse, but when we sat down, the waitress said, sorry, we've run out of steak. We only had fish and chicken. I don't know. Would we order? I don't think so, right, Claude? We'd walk away because we wanted steak. So they're trying to force us to eat chicken or fish, right? Yeah. So you have to deal with consumer demand. Through predictive and prescriptive analytics, you can measure how many people are going to ask steak. So you make sure you always have steak in stock. Because by us walking in and walking out, you haven't just lost one opportunity, you've probably lost continuous opportunity, and you're going to have to try to find 2 new customers because you just lost 2. So there's no retention. It's a loss. Okay. All right. So remember, guys, this can help businesses gain insight into what customers prefer and what they don't like. Moreover, this data businesses can improve their existing list of items, consider creating new products that meet customer preferences, ultimately increase customer satisfaction, and mean more repeat visits and increased revenue for the restaurant. Another way data analytics help the food and beverage business understand customers is by identifying those who are no longer purchasing as much as they have been over the past 13 weeks. So usually if you have a fast food restaurant and you notice that school kids are no longer buying your hamburgers over the last 13 weeks because you increase the price of the hamburger by $2 or you change the recipe, that tells you that it was the wrong step. So you need to go back and reanalyze your business. Usually sales trends over 13 weeks are enough for you to decide whether a product is successful or it's selling at the right price. Okay, 13 weeks is the average measurement that we use in the F&B industry. Okay. All right, organizations are legally obliged to protect customer data from being used, stolen, or ending up in the wrong hands. Now you might ask, well, hold on, I run a business. I have an IT department. Why is it my problem? You're collecting the information. And as a business owner, if your business has its data breached, you as a company or as an individual owner, a sole proprietor, are legally liable for the data breach. Do you understand that, guys? For example, if the bank loses data about its 100,000 or 1 million customers, who does the government go after? It goes after the bank. And who do they call to an inquiry? They call its CEO and its Chief Information Officer, because they are both responsible for the way in which data is collected and managed. Would you understand that? There is a responsibility on you and your business. Whether you're a sole proprietor, an entrepreneur working from home, you are just as liable and responsible for data as any multinational company is. How can data be breached, or what are the types of security risks you must be aware of? Okay, storm damage to cables or fiber cables or cable connections to your mainframe, theft of data by pinching paper or stealing documents from your office, or people being able to access your servers illegally. Power loss, which means the power's switched off and somebody could go and remove the hard disk and steal it without any alarms going off. Okay, viral outbreaks where a Trojan is released to wipe out your data and copy it to an unknown source. Mechanical failure, which could erase all your data because it wasn't backed up properly. Interruption of water supply. Well, I don't know about water supply interruption, losing data, but if you have your data stored in a computer room that runs on air conditioning, and your air conditioning system needs water to keep it running, and your air conditioning fails and your servers overheat and fail, that could be caused by interruption of water service to your air conditioning. Of course, fire, a human error, a programmer deleting the information or sharing it illegally, cyber attacks, Trojans, and of course, natural disasters. Now, as a business, please listen to me carefully. You are responsible for making sure that you have processes and policies on how you're going to ensure that all these elements are protected. And for most companies, like banks, they always have their data stored on 3 different servers in 3 different locations. Can anybody tell me why they put it in 3 different locations? Why is finance law require banks to store data in 3 separate locations? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? Claude? Tell me, why do they store it in 3 different locations?
If they need to find the original information and that is lost, they can go to the second one. If that is lost, they can go to the third one, which is a backup of different locations.
Absolutely. And the reason they choose different locations is in case there's a war in one location and that that base is destroyed or fired. Or if, for example, the data is stored in China and the Chinese government decides to close the link with another government like Russia or whoever, the banks can't access their data. That's why banks are required to choose 3 locations around the world, depending on the areas of the world they operate in. Thank you, Claude. Very much appreciated. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
And the same goes for airlines. Airlines are required to keep their flight operations patterns, their flight data, the information that's communicated by servers to the aircrafts when in the air, getting information from the database. Airlines are required to have those in 3 different locations. So if you're a British Airways flight flying from London to Australia and crossing a different time zone, the computer will connect to the servers in London. But should that computer, the aircraft, have problems connecting to London, it will automatically trigger the database or the server in another part of the world. And the aircraft onboard computer actually knows which server is closest to its location to trigger. All right. So can you imagine what would happen if an A380 flying over the Atlantic Ocean lost contact with the main computer and could not read weather and other information it needs to fly? What would happen to that aircraft? So if the weather had storms and they couldn't connect with the server back in London, that aircraft needs to have connection with other servers in other parts of the world. And it also is required to have a backup of the information related to that flight on the aircraft computer, which the captain usually downloads before he takes off. So when the captain puts his flight plan in, the in-flight computer would automatically go to the server and retrieve all the important information and put it on the aircraft's memory bank, hard drive. And once that flight is over and the next captain comes on, he puts a new flight plan there. Then the old flight plan is moved to the black box and a new flight plan is stored on board in case that aircraft has a problem connecting to the airline's mainframe. Does everybody understand that? Ladies and gentlemen, do you all understand why data analytics are important in today's business world? Does everybody understand that? Yes? So can you tell me, is it possible for a business in the 20th century post-COVID-19 to survive without data analytics? Yes or no? If you say yes, put your hand up. If you say no, put your hand up. No, it's not. No, it's not. Can Amazon survive without data analytics? Amazon would go broke if it didn't collect data. Can I ask you, why do you think that Amazon is more successful than Alibaba now? Does anybody know? It's not because Jack left Alibaba. That's a totally separate story. The reason why Amazon is more successful is because the actual artificial intelligence they use at the back end of their e-commerce platform is a lot more sophisticated. And it's also because they collect a lot more data and they spend a lot more money on analyzing that data on a daily basis. And it's also because Amazon now has warehouses in more than 20 locations around the world, and each warehouse delivers to a different part of the world, whereby Alibaba only comes out of China. Do you understand that, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, you will all receive a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation on Monday by email, providing you have attended the full session and your camera has been switched on. Okay, what I do, like I do in every BizTalk, I will share my mobile number in the chat box shortly, and you can WhatsApp me. Please, for any questions regarding BizTalk, do not use Telegram. Telegram is for official messages from us to you. You must use WhatsApp, and you must say your name and the date of today's BizTalk, and you're welcome to ask any questions. If you would like me to help you use what you've learned today to implement in your work or business, and you want me to give you some guidance, please feel free and drop me a message or tell me, Wally, can we have a telephone discussion? Does everybody understand that? Let me put my number in the chat box for everyone, please. One moment. I'll put my name there as well in case any of you don't know who I am. Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wally Rauda, and my mobile number, my WhatsApp number, starts with country code +65 822 5220. Let me leave you with my background. I have been an academic for more than 38 years. I have been a consultant to business, industry, and government for over 25 years. I motivate people in business. I advise on business continuity, and I help businesses grow their HR philosophy all over the world. All right. So I come with ample experience and case study scenario. All right. But everybody's learning, and I learn every day, because every day I read about another company that failed and I start asking, why did it fail? I call one of my colleagues in another country and say, hey, George, you're lecturing in London. This company went bankrupt today. Tell me, why do you think they went bankrupt? How can I develop a case study about them? Do you understand where I'm coming from, guys? So remember, learning is an ongoing train journey in life. All of you started as babies out of mummy's tummy. All of you should have come out of mummy's tummy, huh? Not daddy's tummy. All right. So you all came out of mummy's tummy and you started crawling. And then after you started crawling, you started rolling onto your stomach. And then suddenly, Tao Li started getting so confident. Instead of crawling, she started standing up. And then she'd fall down and she'd cry because her little bum would be sore. And then she learned how to stand up and walk. But suddenly, Tao Li wasn't satisfied. She started walking faster. And before she knew it, she was opening mummy's kitchen cupboards and putting everything on the floor. She was running around the house and making her mummy chase her because she didn't want to go to bed, right, Tao Li? Am I right? Yes, Tao Li, I know. I was the same. All right. So all of that was a learning journey. You went to school. You had boyfriends. You probably got married. You probably had 5 boyfriends and dumped them because you decided they weren't good looking enough, they weren't smart enough, or didn't have enough money. Right or wrong? Yeah, all of us, we've all been through it. And that's a learning journey. It's a learning curve that we go through in life. And the more knowledge you gain, the more information you add to your toolkit to be successful in life. The biggest mistake people in business make is they assume they know everything. Let me leave you with a saying, and this is no disrespect to anyone. To assume is to be an ass. Do you understand that? To assume and not to have the humility to ask when you know people can help you is to be an ass. And usually people only succeed in business after they fail. And why have they failed? is because they refused to listen. They thought they know better than everyone else. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? So I'm asking you today, open your minds. Start opening your mind and learning about whatever you can in whatever industry you're in. If you go to work day after day and do the same job, it's time you looked at the mirror. People like Rochelle and May, anybody who goes and does an office job every day, look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Ask yourself, what do I need to do so that management recognizes me and considers me for promotion? If I keep doing my job the same way, it's never going to happen. You need to bring a sense of eccentricity. You need to start thinking of better ways to do things, more productive ways, more efficient ways. And only when you do that will you be recognized. Does everybody understand that? Stop living in the past. Stop living in the norm. Your parents grew up in the 50s or 60s or 70s, if you're not as old as me. All right. But the fact is, the generation they grew up in, the economy they lived in is not the economy we live in today. Do you understand that, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure delivering this talk today. To my co-host, Miss Adina, thank you so much for being here for me today, Adina. It's a pleasure. From both me and Adina, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I wish you all a very pleasant evening wherever you're heading today. If you haven't had dinner, I wish you a very pleasant buon appetit, as they say, or arrivederci in Italian. The only two languages I know basically on how to say enjoy your food. Forgive me. But if you can teach me another one, please do. All right. So please have a great afternoon from me in Singapore and my colleague. We wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you for joining BizTalk, everyone. I hope to see you again in the very near future. Remember, everybody, we have our motivation session on Monday night with my boss and my mentor, Mr. Benson Ma. Please join us at 8 o'clock on Monday night for motivation. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye and good luck. Goodbye, everyone. God bless you all. I love you all. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. Thanks, guys. Have a great day ahead, guys. Keep on smiling and keep on learning. Life is a journey. Goodbye.